Question number 6, Dr. Russel Norman.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is to the Prime Minister and asks, does he stand by all his government's decisions?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, yes.
Supplementary.
Supplementary question, Dr. Russel Norman.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does he stand by his government's decision to tender for oil exploration permits in over 3,000 square kilometres of the North Island Marine Mammal Sanctuary, a sanctuary that was established to protect the last 55 Maui's dolphins left on planet Earth?
Mr. Speaker, yes, and I'm not surprised to see the Greens' opposition to that because they're fundamentally opposed to everything, but I was surprised to see the Labour leader come out and say that. And the reason I say that, Mr. Speaker, is a very serious point, and that is that Pohokura, 40% of New Zealand's gas is included there. So one can only assume when that gas field is closed down what will happen to gas prices for New Zealanders. There are 23 permits for oil being drilled there, 18 of which were actually issued under a Labour government. Mr. Speaker, what the leader of the Labour Party is saying today...
Order. Well, I appreciate the comment from Grant Robertson. Supplementary question, Dr. Russel Norman.
Does the Prime Minister understand that there is a difference in the risk to Maui's dolphins from existing production wells?
Order. The member has a right to ask the question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the Prime Minister understand that there is a difference in the risk to Maui's dolphins from existing production wells and his government's decision to add new risks to Maui's dolphins from new seismic surveying and new drilling of exploratory wells, which is what the government has approved?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, in a sort of phrase, I suppose, what a load of nonsense. If that was absolutely correct, then given that we've been drilling in the Taranaki region since the 1960s and there's never been a situation where a Maui dolphin has been killed as a result of that, you think it would have happened sometime in the last 50 years. It's just the mumbo-jumbo that the Greens go on about. But what's incredible is the Labour government...
Order. Supplementary question, Dr. Russel Norman.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Instead of the usual verbal abuse from the Prime Minister, will he engage in the science around the issue?
Order. Now, can I ask the member to simply ask the supplementary question?
Well, point of order, Mr. Speaker.
Order. Point of order.
Mr. Speaker, it is one of the standing orders of question time that I can refer to the Minister's answers. He chose to engage in that kind of attack, which is his right. I chose to respond to it, which is my right as well.
Order. I don't think that's strictly true. Many supplementary questions probably aren't within the strict interpretation of standing orders. The reason I'm asking for the member's assistance in just simply asking his question is his initial comments created a lot of disorder so that the members, none of the House could successfully hear the question. Now, I invite the member to ask a supplementary question.
Well, point of order, Mr. Speaker.
Point of order, Dr. Russel Norman.
Your ruling effectively says that if the government members start shouting very loudly, you will rule the question out of order. That does not seem to me a very sound basis for ruling questions out of order.
That's not what I'm doing at all. I'm trying to assist the member so that he can ask his question and at least it can be heard certainly by myself and then I can judge whether it's been addressed. I'm trying to assist the member. If the member doesn't want my assistance, we will move to the next question. Supplementary question, Dr. Russel Norman.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will the Prime Minister, for once, engage in the science around the issue?
Order.
And is he aware that the world's largest professional scientific body dedicated to research on marine mammals has asked the government to stop going ahead with this seismic surveying, with the new exploration, because it is a threat to the very existence of Maui's dolphin?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, what the member is saying is based on a load of mumbo-jumbo. He wants to close down Taranaki. The thousands of jobs are supported there, and what is incredible is David Cunliffe wants to do that as well. Let's see what Andrew Little thinks of...
Order. Order. Point of order. Grant Robertson.
Mr Speaker, point of order.
This is a point of order, and it will be heard in silence.
Mr Speaker, that is now the third answer in a row where the Prime Minister has breached standing orders and that you have been forced to stand up and bring him back into order. I wonder, how long does it go on for?
Well, hopefully 3 times. Hopefully 3 times is enough, and I hope so. Order. Further supplementary? Supplementary question, Dr.
Supplementary. Does he stand by Nick Smith and Nick Smith's comments when he told the House last week that there had been no sightings of Maui's dolphins in the oil exploration area?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, I don't have those details to hand, but what I do know is there's not been a single recorded incident involving a Maui dolphin in the oil and gas industry over the last 40 years in the Taranaki region.
Point of order, Dr. Russel Norman.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. I seek leave to table a map prepared by the Green Research Unit which overlays the sightings with the oil exploration area, Mr Smith.
Order. The tabling of documents is for to inform members. It's not to reinforce a political point that's been made. Point of order. Honourable David.
Point of order, Mr Speaker. That is a new piece of information that should or could be of interest to the House. I don't see that it is at all political.
Well, the easiest way to sort this out is I will put the leave if that's what the member wants, and then the House can decide. Leave is sought to table this particular map. Is there any objection to being tabled? There is objection. Supplementary question. Order. 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 Supplementary question, Dr. Russell.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. How can he be confident that his ministers and his government is making the right decision with regard to new oil exploration in the Maui sanctuary when the Minister of Conservation is entirely wrong when he states there have not been sightings of Maui dolphins in the oil exploration area when the evidence is to the contrary?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, the government's very confident of the advice on which it based the decisions for the Block Office, but what I would say to New Zealanders is this. If a Labour Greens administration gets to power and they close down every gas field and every oil field in Taranaki, it will be to the cost of New Zealand consumers, it will be to the cost of the environment, and Mr Speaker, it's called economic lunacy.
Order. I've heard enough.
Point of order, Mr Speaker.
Order.
Mr Robertson raised with you the
issue...
Is
this a point of order?
Yes, Mr Speaker. Mr Robertson raised with you the issue of the Prime Minister repeatedly abusing standing orders in his answers. I'd ask you to address Mr Robertson's point.
I don't believe... I'll listen to the Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, stating a fact, which is what I'm doing, is not abusing standing orders. It's quite germane to the answer. The member has asked me about essentially closing down oil and gas fields in the Taranaki. I'm simply pointing out that there is wide support in the opposition to do that, and that would have an extremely large impact on the people of Taranaki.
Speaking to the order.
Mr Speaker, what's going down here?
Order. It's over to members how long they're here for question time. I'll hear from the Honourable David Parker.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. What's going down here is an assertion by the Prime Minister, which is propaganda under the guise of question time, which is meant by you to be controlled to factual answers to questions asked, not speculation about other parties' policies.
And I think the member makes a point, except that when I listened to the question, the assertion from the member who asked the questions was that a particular minister had been wrong in information that he'd given. So I think that widened the answer. I don't believe... Order! Order! I'm getting to the stage when I'm going to have to ask the Honourable David Parker to shortly leave the chamber. I don't want to do that, but when I'm on my feet ruling and I'm hearing a constant interjection from the Honourable David Parker, that must cease. The question was addressed... Order. This had better be a point of order. Point of order, the Honourable David.
My point of order was that none of those questions were asked by the Labor Party, and the assertions were about the Labor Party, and that wasn't even addressed in your answer, Mr Speaker.
I will reflect on the answer when I consider Hansard later on today. Further supplementary? Order. Order. Is this a fresh point of order?
It's in relation to your ruling, Mr Speaker.
Listen, I have ordered. Member will resume his seat. I've already ruled. I will re-look at the Hansard afterwards, but if the member wants to discuss it further, as I frequently do, invite him to come and see me after question time. Supplementary question, Dr. Russel Norman.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Given that the International Whaling Commission's scientific committee has said that current activities threatened the Maui's dolphin with extinction, how does his proposed activities to increase oil exploration, not existing production, Mr Prime Minister, but increased oil exploration, how will that help the Maui's dolphin avoid extinction, or is it much more likely that his legacy to this country will be to drive the Maui's dolphin towards extinction?
Honourable,
Mr Speaker, I reject the assertion. Secondly, Mr Speaker, conservation was consulted actually as part of the process that went through. Mr Speaker, it's really as simple as this. If the member's right, then over the last 64 years or 54 years, a Maui dolphin would have been killed as a result of the exploration activity. Not one single dolphin has. So we've had a 54-year experiment and nothing's happened. And now the opposition, including Labor, want to close down oil and gas fields.
Order. That answer's now long enough. Order. Supplementary question, Honourable Jerry Brownlee.
Mr Speaker, to the Prime Minister, as New Zealand's domestic oil and gas supplies dwindle, what would be the effect on the New Zealand economy if they are not replaced by new discovery?
Honourable Prime Minister.
Well, Mr Speaker, of course the country would have to import more of those fuels, which have an effect on our balance of payments. New Zealand would not earn the nearly $1 billion of royalties and taxes it earns a year. Mr Speaker, thousands and thousands and thousands of people who are employed in Taranaki, a place that we know well, would lose their job. And I look forward to campaigning in Taranaki and telling them, here's your stark choice.
Order. 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 From the Honourable Simon Bridges. Question number 7, Paul Foster Bell.
Thank you, Mr Speaker.